We're jumping straight into it today. The 2024 Eagles are the best team to ever play the game of football. The best team to ever play the game of football. Now I know you guys are listening in like, oh Shane, you're just being a biased Eagles fan. Here we go with the Eagles nonsense, with the delusion. If you look at the facts, if you are a true football fan and you look at the facts, this 2024 Eagles squad is unlike any other squad that has ever won a Super Bowl. Unlike any other squad that has ever won a Super Bowl, this 2024 Eagles is the only team in NFL history that had a lot of certain components. They're the only team in NFL history that had a top 5 quarterback while having a 2,000-yard rusher, while having two inarguable top 15 receivers, one of which is top 3, having the best offensive line in football unquestionably, while also having the best defensive line in football, but at that, as a collective, having the best overall defense in the NFL. A defense that was top ranked in the NFL, led the league in fewest yards and fewest passing yards and fewest passing touchdowns allowed, was second in scoring, beat the best, arguably what was the best offense in the NFL with the best quarterback in the NFL, a guy fighting for GOAT status, beat that guy, beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl without blitzing him a single time. This was the best football team to ever win a Super Bowl. No other team in NFL history that has won a Super Bowl had all of those collective pieces. Now, I mean, you look at teams like the 72 Dolphins, historic teams, the 85 Bears, any team that Brady has ever been on, the Steel Curtain Steelers. Like you look at some of the most iconic teams in the history of the NFL, the Legion of Boom Seahawks. You look at some of those iconic teams. Some of those teams had legendary defenses. Sure. Some of those teams maybe even had legendary offenses. Some of those teams maybe even had legendary individual players in certain positions, whether it was a quarterback, whether it was a receiver, maybe a linebacker. No other team in NFL history has had all of those collective pieces. Not one single team in NFL history other than the 2024 Eagles have had elite guys at almost every position putting up the numbers that team was able to put up. There's no other team in the history of the NFL, no other Super Bowl winning team in the history of the NFL that is like the 2024 Eagles. There's no other team. This team, I mean, I don't think people understand how special this 2024 Eagles squad was. But something else that sets them apart from any other Super Bowl winning team in the NFL is that they're also the youngest team to ever win a Super Bowl. The Eagles in 2024 had the youngest roster ever to win a Super Bowl. The youngest roster ever. The average age of the squad last year was 25 years old. 25 years old. And with that, while being the youngest team in NFL history to win a Super Bowl, they set the record for most points scored in a postseason. They tied the record for most wins in a season, in a complete season, with 18. And they beat the Chiefs without having to blitz Patrick Mahomes a single time. That's only happened, I believe, 3 times, including this past Super Bowl. It's only happened 3 times. The Eagles were the youngest team to ever win a Super Bowl. And by default, being the youngest team to ever win a Super Bowl, they're also this Super Bowl team is the team that won their Super Bowl having the largest championship window ever out of any other team that has ever won a Super Bowl. If they're the youngest team that has ever won a Super Bowl, by default, especially winning in the fashion that they did in a blowout, where at one point the score was 40-6 in the fourth quarter, winning in the fashion that they did, as young as they were, by default, that Super Bowl Eagles team has a larger championship window than any other Super Bowl winning team in the history of the NFL. This Eagles team, is more likely to grow into a dynasty than any other Super Bowl winning team before them. Their likelihood of growing into a dynasty is greater than the likelihood that any other Super Bowl winning team had, as they went into their coming seasons, going into their next season. This was the greatest Super Bowl winning team of all time. The greatest Super Bowl winning team of all time. And then looking at the squad going into next year, this was the youngest team in the history of the NFL to win a Super Bowl that actually made itself younger. And what could be better. What could be a better squad than what we saw last year. Like, if you look at this Eagles team going into the 2025 season, this Eagles team really has the best player at their respective position at almost every position. Like, the Eagles have the best guy in the league at almost every position. The only guy that they have on their squad, the only starter that they have on their squad that isn't arguably the best in his position is Jalen Hurts. But even with that being said, Jalen Hurts is right at 2. Jalen Hurts is right at 2. The only guy that the Eagles have, the only starter that the Eagles have who is not the best at his respective position in regards to the rest of the NFL is Jalen Hurts. But Jalen Hurts, with that being said, is only the second best quarterback in the NFL. He's the second best quarterback in the NFL. There is only one quarterback that is significantly better than Jalen Hurts, and that's Patrick Mahomes. That's the only quarterback that you can't put up an argument for in terms of being better, in terms of Jalen Hurts being better than is Patrick Mahomes. That goes without saying. 2-time champion. No, wait. Multiple, the champion that Patrick Mahomes is, fighting for all-time status. What he has done in the NFL, things that the NFL has never seen before. I mean, he's fighting for legacy. Like, clearly Patrick Mahomes is better than Jalen Hurts. But after Patrick Mahomes, there's no other quarterback that you can say is head and shoulders over Jalen Hurts, because none of those other quarterbacks aside from winning an MVP have done anything more than Jalen Hurts. Where Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have won MVPs, Jalen Hurts has rings. Jalen Hurts has made appearances on the biggest stage of the NFL. Lamar Jackson has 2 MVPs. Jalen Hurts has 2 Super Bowl appearances. 1 Super Bowl ring. Josh Allen has an MVP. Jalen Hurts has a championship. There's no other quarterback in the NFL other than Patrick Mahomes that you can say is definitively better or head and shoulders above Jalen Hurts. There's just no other quarterback. Jalen Hurts is arguably the best winner in the NFL. Jalen Hurts' winning ability is up there with Patrick Mahomes. And that's the most important factor when talking about a quarterback. His ability to win games. There's no other quarterback in the NFL that does that better than Jalen Hurts other than Patrick Mahomes. And even looking at Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts beat Patrick Mahomes and then also outplayed him on another occasion. Outplayed him twice in the Super Bowl and outplayed him in the regular season when they faced off. So with Jalen Hurts aside, every other starter that the Eagles have on their squad is the best player or collective unit in their respective position. So looking past quarterback, there's no question Saquon Barkley is the best running back in the NFL. There's no question. 15 total touchdowns this year, over 2,000 rushing yards. I mean, MVP candidate, averaged over 5 yards per carry. I mean, and then just looking at pure talent and skill, elusiveness really up there with Barry Sanders, one of the best running backs in yards after contact. He can be a power back. He can be shifty. He's patient behind the line of scrimmage. He's also helpful in the passing game. Like there's not a lot of running backs who you can say are more talented than Saquon Barkley. But there's also no other running backs that you can say produce more than Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley put together the greatest season by a running back ever in the history of the NFL this year. Saquon Barkley is already a Hall of Famer. He's already a Hall of Famer. Get his gold jacket, get him fitted for his gold jacket now, because he's already a Hall of Famer. Saquon Barkley solidified himself as one of the best running backs of all time this season. He strung together the best season ever by a running back in 2024. There's no question Saquon Barkley is the best running back in the NFL. Look at receiver, A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is arguably the best receiver in the NFL. Like, I know we look at Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson as 1A, 1B, interchangeable at that one spot for best receiver in the NFL. But A.J. Brown is every bit as talented and capable as Justin Jefferson and Ja'Marr Chase. Honestly, I would argue that he's more capable than Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson. If you look at Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson, we're looking at two guys who have been the centerpieces of their offense. Like, their offense was built around its ability to get them the ball. Like, the Vikings' success has been off of the back of Justin Jefferson, has been off the back of getting Justin Jefferson the ball. That has been the focus of their offense. No matter who their quarterback has been, whether it's Sam Darnold, whether it was Kirk Cousins, the focus of that offense was get Justin Jefferson the ball. Getting Justin Jefferson the ball will stretch the field for us to be able to run the ball with Dalvin Cook or an Aaron Jones. That has been the focus of their offense. The focus of the Bengals offense in recent years, the first year they drafted him, the focus was get Ja'Marr Chase the ball. Get Ja'Marr Chase the ball, whether it's in the deep thirds of the field, whether it's more of a catch and run situation, just allowing him to be a ball carrier. Get Ja'Marr Chase the ball, because the more defenses have to pay attention to Ja'Marr Chase, the more we can possibly get the ball to T. Higgins. The more we can possibly get the ball to Tyler Boyd. The more success Joe Mixon will have in the run game. Like, that has always been the focus of the Bengals offense since they drafted Ja'Marr Chase, is get Ja'Marr Chase the ball. The offense was built around the connection between Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase. A.J. Brown, when he was in that type of offense, he didn't have anywhere near as talented of a quarterback as the Vikings and the Bengals have had. A.J. Brown, when he was in that sort of scheme in Tennessee, his quarterback was Ryan Tannehill. And even with Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown was putting up 1,500, 1,600 yards a season. The only time A.J. Brown has been in that sort of scheme where he was the focus was where Ryan Tannehill was his quarterback. He didn't have an elite passer in Joe Burrow. He didn't even have a guy who you could say was superbly talented at the quarterback position, like a Kirk Cousins, like really a Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is a talented quarterback, not the most efficient quarterback in the NFL, but Sam Darnold has talent for sure. He's going to have another guy that could fill that role in J.J. McCarthy. Like, A.J. Brown, when he was in that situation, when he was the focus of the offense, he didn't have a talented quarterback. When he did get a talented quarterback in Jalen Hurts, it was more of a spread out offense where A.J. Brown was not the centerpiece. Getting A.J. Brown was not the focus of the offense. A.J. Brown came to a squad that, even though it had an elite quarterback in Jalen Hurts, the focus of the offense was the run game. The focus of the offense was the run game. It was either focusing on Jalen Hurts' dual threat ability as a quarterback in the RPO and read option scheme that they ran under Shane Steichen the year they went to the Super Bowl. Then it was focusing on pounding the ball with DeAndre Swift and Jalen Hurts. And then this year, of course, it was feed Saquon Barkley until he's full. Feed Saquon Barkley until he's full. A.J. Brown was not nearly as involved schematically in this offense as Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson have been as intentionally involved in their offenses since they've been drafted. You look at their production this year. Ja'Marr Chase, 175 targets. Justin Jefferson, 154 targets. Ja'Marr Chase finishing with 1,700 yards on the year. Justin Jefferson finishing with 1,500 yards on the year. Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson both were targeted over 100 times. No, over 150 times this past season. A.J. Brown was targeted 97 times. A.J. Brown was targeted 97 times to Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson's 150 times. That's significantly, that's a significant drop in targets. Significant drop in targets. If A.J. Brown had as many targets as Justin Jefferson and Ja'Marr Chase has had this season, there's no question A.J. Brown's production would be at their level. There's no question his production would be at their level. With having significantly less targets, A.J. Brown was still a 1,000-yard receiver this year. Still had over 1,000 receiving yards. If A.J. Brown had as many targets as Justin Jefferson and Ja'Marr Chase, A.J. Brown would be leading the league in receiving yards. There's no question. A.J. Brown would be leading the league in receiving yards if he had as many targets as Chase and Jay Jettis. Granted, two elite receivers. But if you ask me, I wouldn't say that Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson just clear A.J. Brown. I wouldn't say that at all. And if you're looking at capability, A.J. Brown is, you could say, is more capable than Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson. A.J. Brown, even though he had significantly less targets than Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson, had a much higher, led the league in contested catches. A.J. Brown, with significantly less targets, had the highest success rate in contested catches in the NFL. Had the highest success rate in contested catches in the NFL. He's led the league in contested catch success for the past 3 seasons. There is no receiver that is better against man-to-man single coverage than A.J. Brown. There's no receiver that's better. Terry McLaurin had a year this year where he ranked a little higher than A.J. Brown. But overall, there is no receiver in the NFL that is better in one-on-one situations than A.J. Brown. Whether it's outrunning you, whether it's outrunning the DB, or whether it's just going up and winning against the DB in those 50-50 ball situations, there's no receiver that is better in single coverage, in man-to-man coverage, than A.J. Brown. There's no receiver that's better. In a game for my life, if I have to throw a Hail Mary pass for a touchdown to one of those 3 receivers, I have all 3 on the field. I got A.J. Brown on one side. I got Justin Jefferson on the other. I got Ja'Marr Chase on the slot. Just straight trips. If I got to throw a Hail Mary to one of those guys for a touchdown to win the game for my life, I'm throwing it to A.J. Brown every time. I'm throwing it to A.J. Brown every time. Game for my life. I'm throwing it to A.J. Brown every time. And every one of those times, I'm winning the game. I'm alive. Every one of those times, I'm alive. Because A.J. Brown is coming down with the ball. A.J. Brown really has a case for the best receiver in the NFL. Because what would Ja'Marr Chase's production look like? What would Justin Jefferson's production look like if they only had 97 targets in the season? In the whole season. What would Ja'Marr Chase's production look like if he went from 175 targets to less than 100 targets? What would Justin Jefferson's production look like if he went from 154 targets to under 100 targets? What would their production look like if they were in an offense like this Eagles offense that has multiple weapons that need the ball, that get the ball? That was playing in a predominantly run-first offense. The fact that AJ Brown is putting up the numbers that he has and that he is with as many targets as he has been given, as many targets as he gets, I mean, there's no question AJ Brown could be leading the league in receiving yards if he had targets at the level of Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson. There's just no question. AJ Brown definitely has a case for best receiver in the NFL. 100%. At least being in the same room as Justin Jefferson and Ja'Marr Chase. But someone else who kind of is in that similar position is Dallas Goedert. The Eagles have arguably the best tight end in football in Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert is in the same, and if anyone is going to get the ball less than AJ Brown, less than Devontae Smith, less than Saquon Barkley, it's Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert is the fourth option on this offense. AJ Brown is going to get the ball first in the pass. Devontae Smith is going to get the ball second. But then that's also after Saquon Barkley gets the carries that he gets, at least looking at last season. Like, Dallas Goedert is the fourth to fifth man down in this offense in terms of weapons. I mean, that really just shows you how dominant and deep this offense really is. The fact that a guy like Dallas Goedert is the fourth man down, is the fourth option. But that's another guy who is kind of limited by the guys he plays with, by his teammates. But like capability-wise, there's no tight end that is significantly better than Dallas Goedert. There's no tight end that is currently more productive than Dallas Goedert, that can do certain things, that can do one certain thing better than Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert has elite hands. He's elite in yards after catch. He's one of the most athletic tight ends in the NFL. Like, there's no tight end that is head and shoulders above Dallas Goedert. Like, Travis Kelce, you look at Travis Kelce, obviously he is a great tight end, an all-time tight end, but he's on a decline right now. You could maybe say George Kittle. You could make because of his athletic ability, but George Kittle also gets more targets and more love than Dallas Goedert does in the offense. George Kittle is more of a focus in his offense than Dallas Goedert is in his. Then you look at other young guys. I mean, Mark Andrews, other guys. I mean, that he's also on a decline. Then you look at the younger guys, Isaiah Likely, Trey McBride. I mean, Brock Bowers. Those guys haven't done enough to be considered better than Dallas Goedert. We haven't seen enough from them yet to just put them head and shoulders above Dallas Goedert. Sam Laporta, that's another guy who is kind of in the same position as Dallas Goedert, just being on a field with just elite weapons around him that get the ball before him. He's in a similar position, not being kind of limited in his role in Detroit. Like, there's no tight end in the NFL right now that you could say is significantly better than Dallas Goedert. They're either young and haven't done enough. They're either young and haven't done enough. They're either in the middle of a decline right now, being one of the older guys in the NFL, or they're in the same position as him where they are also in a dynamic offense, an offense filled with elite weapons, and just aren't able to get as many targets like that because they are also the third to fourth option in their scheme. There's no tight end that is significantly better than Dallas Goedert. Then, looking at another position for the Eagles, the Eagles no doubt have the best offensive line in the game of football. There's no doubt the Eagles have the best offensive line in the game of football. An offensive line that has two all-pro guys, one of which has Hall of Fame status right now, but that also has 2 Pro Bowl guys. This Eagles offense is stacked from top to bottom. 2 All-Pro guys in Jordan Mailata, who was second-team All-Pro last year. Lane Johnson, who is All-Pro just about every single year, who is really the best tackle in the game of football, who, if he retired today, would be a Hall of Famer. But then you also have Pro Bowl guys, first and second year starters in Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson. It doesn't even matter who they put at that other guard position, whether it's Tyler Steen, whether it's Kenyon Green. It doesn't matter. That offensive line, regardless of who's at that guard position, is going to be the best offensive line in football. The best offensive line in football. And with a guy like Jeff Stoutland, you can only assume Tyler Steen is going to follow in those footsteps. He is going to assimilate with that culture. You can only assume, with the culture that Jeff Stoutland has put into place in that offensive line room, producing all-pro caliber guys since he took over the position for the Eagles, since like before 2013, the 2013 era, working with Jason Kelce, working with guys like Brandon Brooks, working with guys like Isaac Samalu, Jason Peters. That is the norm in Philly, is having an elite offensive line. The Eagles have the best offensive line in football this year, and they have for a while. That's nothing new. The Eagles having the best offensive line is nothing new. There's no question this is the best offensive line in football. There's no offensive line that clears this Eagles O-line. Guys, I mean, an offensive line that was at the level of this O-line was the Lions, but they've had a couple guys retire. The 49ers, they've had injuries, didn't look as good last year. Who knows what they'll look like this year? There's no offensive line right now that is at the level or above the Philadelphia Eagles. And the same can be said about the D-line. The Eagles have the best defensive line in the NFL. You could say they could have the best defensive line in the NFL this year with what this D-line was able to do to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Obliterated the best quarterback in the NFL in the game in Patrick Mahomes. There's no question this could be the best defensive line in the NFL this year. There's no question. There's no question. One of the main reasons why the Eagles won the Super Bowl was because of how dominant that D-line played against the Chiefs. How dominant that D-line played against the Chiefs O-line. An O-line that was also supposed to be elite. Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis. Now, I know, granted, we lost guys like Josh Sweat and Milton Williams. Josh Sweat, a guy who could have won Super Bowl MVP, having the game that he did, 3 sacks. Milton Williams pulling the plays, playing the way he did. We did lose 2 valuable guys, but if you're looking at who this D-line has left, these guys really have higher ceilings than both of those guys. Jalen Carter has a much higher ceiling than Milton Williams. Jordan Davis and Ty Robinson have higher ceilings than Milton Williams. Granted, they also have Moro Ojomo, who gets to have more of a role in this defense. Just looking at the defensive tackle rotation alone, the Eagles by far have the best defensive tackle rotation in the NFL. With the potential that all 4 of those guys have, they have the best defensive tackle rotation in the NFL. Josh Sweat, even though he was great in the Super Bowl, Jalen Hunt definitely has a higher ceiling than Josh Sweat. Jalen Hunt definitely has a higher ceiling than Josh Sweat. Nolan Smith definitely has a higher ceiling than Josh Sweat. Those 2 guys specifically got better as the season progressed. Jalen Hunt was still able to shine, even though he was the 3rd man down on the depth chart. He was still able to shine in the Super Bowl on the biggest stage. As a guy coming off the bench, he was a guy that was able to shine. He was a guy that was able to shine being a guy off the bench. notching a half a sack in the Super Bowl. Nolan Smith had all of his sacks in the postseason. That's a guy who elevated his game in the biggest moments of the season. A big reason why we even got to the Super Bowl in the first place, defensively. So yeah, Josh Sweat and Milton Williams were losses, but when you look at who the Eagles retained and who they acquired, they're not losses that'll amount to much. They're not losses that'll amount to much. The Eagles could easily have the best D-line in football this year with the step forward that is with the progression that is expected from Jalen Carter, the progression that is expected from a veteran starter now in Nolan Smith, with the increase in minutes that Jalen Hunt will receive, with the progression that Jordan Davis is expected to show, with the potential that Ty Robinson has shown in camp, with the potential that Moro Ojomo showed last season. Like, there's no question this could be the best defensive line in the game of football. There's no question. Then looking at the linebackers, taking a step behind the D-line, there's no question the Eagles had the best linebacker core in the NFL last season. I mean, Zack Baun, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, that goes without saying. Defensive Player of the Year candidate, but also the guy who really should have won Defensive Player of the Year. A snub in my opinion. A guy who really should have won Defensive Player of the Year in Zack Baun. With the progression that we could see from Zack Baun this year, that was the first year Zack Baun had played in that position. Zack Baun is used to being an edge rusher. He's used to being a special teams guy. His first year playing as an inside linebacker, he's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Imagine what Zack Baun could look like in his second year playing that position. Now that he has some more familiarity and comfortability playing in that position, imagine what he could look like next season. Zack Baun could look like the best solidified linebacker in the NFL next season. And then whether it's a healthy Nakobe Dean playing next to him or a young Jahad Campbell who just fits in the system perfectly because of his physical gifts, really is like a symmetrical player, identical twin-like player to Zack Baun in terms of athleticism. No matter which guy we have back there with Zack Baun, there's no question that this linebacker core will be the best linebacker core in the NFL. Arguably, I mean, just by the rotation alone, the best linebacker rotation alone in the NFL. There's no question this will be the best linebacker core in the NFL. Then you look at the secondary. No question, this is the best secondary in the NFL. It was the best secondary in the NFL last year. Losing CJ Gardner-Johnson won't change that. Losing CJ Gardner-Johnson after drafting Andrew Mukuba, after seeing what Sidney Brown was able to do when he was healthy on the field last year, losing CJ Gardner-Johnson won't change that. This secondary is going to be the best secondary in the NFL again this year. Led the league in fewest passing yards allowed, fewest passing touchdowns allowed. Guys like two Defensive Rookie of the Year candidates in the same unit, in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Quinyon Mitchell arguably looking like one of the best corners in the league, not best rookies, looking like one of the best cornerbacks in the league this year. Up there with the Patrick Surtains and the Sauce Gardners. Cooper DeJean. I mean, really not having, Cooper DeJean just being able to roam, doing all the different things he did, being whether he was a blitzer, whether he was a coverage guy, whether he was a man-to-man guy. Like, two of the best DBs in the NFL last year were rookies and were on the same team. Then you look at Reed Blankenship, veteran starter, the closer. Iced multiple games last year with an interception. You're telling me all we lost was CJ Gardner-Johnson? While CJ Gardner-Johnson is a notable loss, I don't think it's crazy to say that either Andrew Makuba or Sidney Brown could fill that role. I don't think that's crazy to say. Andrew Makuba being a part of what was the best secondary in college football last year in Texas, playing really in a identical fashion to CJ Gardner-Johnson, just maybe being a little more physical. Like Andrew Makuba is a slightly more physical version of CJ Gardner-Johnson. A guy that can cover, but then also a guy that is not afraid to run downhill and meet a ball carrier shoulder to shoulder. Just a true hybrid safety. Then you also have a guy like Sidney Brown, who was really a spark plug for the secondary when he was in rotation. A guy who could cover, a guy who was physical, but also a guy that could pick a ball and run it back for 6. Showing pure athleticism at the DB position. There's no question this could be the best secondary in the NFL this year. The Eagles have arguably the best starter or unit at each respective level and position other than quarterback. But even quarterback is arguable. This Eagles team, I mean, with as iconic as this Eagles team was last year, they arguably got better this year. With as dominant and young as this Eagles team was in 2024, we might pop this with as dominant and young as they were in 2024. They just got better and younger going into 2025. And for opposing teams, that's a scary thing to think about. But that's all for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. And I will be back later on with more shameless takes.